Okay, we're live.
Okay. I think board members are taking their 1-minute break. I'd like to welcome everybody who's joining us for the July 21st meeting of the Board of Education. It's 4:32, and I'd like to welcome everybody here. I'm sure we have representation from our employee groups. I'd like to welcome them, however they're participating, probably on Facebook Live, to all of you who are. So thank you and welcome to Dallin Miller and to who's the representative or president of our SLASA group, and to James Tobler and Mike Harmon, who are the executive leadership, president and vice president of our SLEA group. And welcome to Eric Adams and Ben Rowley and B. I'm going to get everybody's names wrong. I'm sorry. And usually from B, welcome from Child Nutrition. We love having you join us. And it's usually Cindy Mills who represents us, represents our SLEOPA group. And Cindy's always so diligent, always wants to make sure that I point out that she's with us, and thank you, Cindy, for your representation. So welcome all, and as we get started with this meeting, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll stand and join me in the pledge.
Okay. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
I feel bad because it's like
with liberty and justice for
if you're
all.
gonna watch the board meeting tonight, that'll be awesome. Maybe we should meet for a drink.
So let's make sure our microphones are turned off if we are not talking.
Why do I have an elementary discussion at 10 p.m.?
Tiffany, that's you. Tiffany Hall, that's you.
Oh yeah, Becky
Turn off your microphone.
Maybe you should check and schedule that at the right time.
Tiffany, if you can hear me, yeah, you'll probably want to turn off your microphone. But we do all want to join you for a drink after the meeting. I think we need it. So thank you, Tiffany, and thank you all for joining us in the pledge. And I'm looking for our new student board member. Dottie, will you join us if you're watching? I would like to introduce you all to our new student board member who joined us a few minutes ago, and I unfortunately had to ask her to step out, and now I'm hoping she'll join us again. But let me tell you a little bit about her while we're waiting for her to join. She's Arundhati Uman, and she's a West High student. And she has worked as a youth liaison in the Salt Lake City Mayor's office. She worked on the mayoral campaign, been a part of the youth city government. She received in 2016 the Nicholas Green Distinguished Student Award as the Utah representative. She also won $5,000 in startup funds for Butter Bands in 2017, the Young Entrepreneurs Award. And she successfully spoke to us, to the Salt Lake City School Board, regarding greater funding in computer science education for minority schools, resulted in a drastic funding increase. So good for us, board members. I'm really excited to have Arundhati join us for our board meetings as our student representative. And she's not with us yet, so I apologize for that to her, but hopefully she'll join us soon. And board members, I know you'll want to welcome her as she joins us, and I wish we could be with her right now. But let me tell you a little bit about why she wants to serve on the Salt Lake City School District Board of Education. She wishes to serve on the Salt Lake City School District Board of Education because she realizes both how powerful youth are and how underrepresented. Spent my entire life dedicated to bringing youth voices to the table. Well, you're in a good place. We're really excited to have Arundhati join us. All righty. When she's back, we can welcome her, but let's move on to our consent agenda. I would take a motion to approve our consent agenda. Board members?
I move we accept the consent agenda consisting of, give me a second, the purchasing and accounting reports, the minutes for the board meeting of April 14th, 2020, tentative agreements for the Salt Lake Education Association, Salt Lake Association of School Administrators, and the classified associations.
Can you make your motion include the proposed salary schedules as well?
And the proposed salary schedules for administrators, certified employees, classified employees, comprehensive, exempt, and hourly employees.
Second.
So we have a motion from Sam and a second by Catherine to approve our consent agenda. Is there discussion or questions about that? Board members?
I'm not going to go along with 4. I want them to have more money.
You want them to have more money?
Yeah, I want them to have more money.
Me too. And I think we've done pretty well. Do we want to talk about what those salary schedules are?
No, I don't think we've talked I don't think we've done very well at all. But I'm not going to, like you say, I'm just not going to. I think we should have more money.
Thanks,
Mike.
Mike.
Done as well as we could be expected to do during a pandemic. So let's call the question and vote.
Well, I'm wondering if there are any other from board members about what's on the consent agenda. These tentative agreements and salary schedules.
Question was called, Melissa. We have to vote on that first.
Okay. So we vote on calling the question?
Well, if other people have things to say, I certainly don't want to quash them. I'm sorry.
I was under the impression that we would have anyway, I don't want to quash them either. No? Okay. Well, let's take a vote on the consent agenda then. Michelle?
Michelle Tuchpo, yes.
Mike Nemelka, no.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Samuel Hanson, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Sweat, yes.
Okay, so the consent agenda passes with a 6-1 vote. Thank you, board members. Thank you for approving the purchasing accounting reports, the minutes for the board meeting, and the tentative agreements and proposed salary schedules. I would personally like to take a moment of personal privilege, I guess, and say I'm really happy with the 4.5% increase, cost of living increase that we're able to give to our employees, and recognize, like Mike, that I would like to do more, but feel like given the circumstances and what we had to work with, we were able to provide as much as was possible and did that willingly and happily. Catherine, I see your hand.
I would like to thank our board negotiation team of Sam and Nate and Melissa. I know that they spent many hours, and I appreciate their work on behalf of this. I know that it was a lot of time and that they really thought deeply and hard about this. I know that we brought our teacher starting salary to $50,000. And I think that is an amazing thing. And I appreciate that, as well as our salary increase of 4.5%. So thank you very much to our team. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Catherine. All right, go ahead, Christy.
So, I appreciate, Melissa, that you were trying to provide, an opportunity for us to ask questions during the consent agenda. And, I just wanted to be able to have Alan, address the piece about the amount of money that it was going to take to pull us up into that 50,000, so that it hadn't been a discussion out in the public.
Absolutely. So after we took last year's salary schedule and increased it by the 4.5%, there were only 2 steps that were below the 50,000, and that's step 1 and 2 of the bachelor lane. And those 2 steps were 1,045 below 50,000, which is the 4.5%. So I did a download of all the teachers and said, okay, how many FTE do we have on those 2 steps that are in the base program? And there was about 17 or 18 FTE is all, indicating, when you do bring in new employees, they're not necessarily coming in on, steps 1 or 2. And then I took those FTE, times it by the 1,045 plus the benefits, and in round figures, it did come to $20,000.
So Alan, did that change the salary schedule at all?
Just steps 1 and 2 of the bachelor lane.
Just 1 and 2 of the bachelor lane. So as far as the future wise, we're still good as we move through that salary schedule. You don't see any problems or complications.
Right. We didn't make any changes to any other steps in the salary schedule other than the COLA.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. I think it's important that we had that discussion so that, everyone understands that conversation happened, negotiations, and now we're able to, have that information out in the public. So thank you.
And I do think, thank you for that, Christy, and thanks for that information, Alan, and the conversation. It is something I'm really excited to publicize, right? The starting salary in Salt Lake will be 50,000, no lower than that, and we've given a 4.5% increase to our employees this year. Did I see your hand, Nate?
Yeah, I would just echo the conversation and extend also gratitude to our partners on the negotiating team, Moselle and Logan, and certainly Alan with his expertise and his availability to join us and ask some tough questions during those meetings. So certainly want to extend that sense of gratitude to Moselle and her team, and Logan and Carrie and Alan for their help with that.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate that. So moving to the next, if I've given board members an opportunity to speak to that, go ahead. Okay. We've got more people joining us. It's harder to keep track of, but I'm doing my best. Thanks for your patience. Moving to the request to speak. We have been accepting that public comment by email, which then you all received in an email from Lisa Alaman. So hopefully you've had a chance to read it. That public comment will be attached to our minutes. I know that that we're all receiving a lot of public comment right now, and we're really grateful for it. So keep it coming. We love it. And so now we will move to our discussion agenda. And on this discussion agenda, I've just added, as you can see, our calendar, because I would like us to have a discussion about whether we want to have desire to spend more time together in this online platform, and schedule another meeting. Knowing what we have going in front of us, I think it might be prudent for us to have a discussion about whether we want to meet again sometime soon. So Superintendent Madden, if you've got some thoughts on that, or I would love to hear that, and then I'll open that for board member discussion.
Yeah, only this, in that things are just changing so fast. We know this is the most unusual start to the year that we've experienced. It seems to me like it would be advisable to put another meeting on the schedule, and I assume we're talking about August 18th. And because I'm sure that I'm sure we're going to have things to talk about.
Okay, comments from board members. Proposal to add a board meeting on August 18th. Nobody wants to talk about it? Nate, then Christy?
Sure. I think just in very similar circumstances to what Larry mentioned and in previous discussions on other topics, I think it's better to just kind of be prepared and have that time set aside. In the most likely event, in my opinion, that we will need that, I would support having an additional meeting on the 18th, and just took a quick look at the calendar, and that would work for me anytime after 4 p.m.
Okay, thanks, Nate. Christy?
So I would support another meeting. However, I think it should be on the 11th. I think that it's more timely, only having that week in between, we'd be able to make quicker decisions instead of having that 2-week lag. So for me, I would like us to entertain moving it to the 11th and not the 18th.
Okay, I support that, and the 11th actually works a little better for me than the 18th. I just want to put that question to Larry, Superintendent Madden, and Business Administrator Kersley, and talk about that turnaround time in that 1 week time period. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm certainly okay with the 11th. I guess I was just thinking about the spacing, and thinking about keeping it every 2 weeks, just because we don't know what that meeting will exactly consist of. I'm open to that, though. I'm open to the 11th or the 18th.
Should we just add a meeting? Add extra meetings on the 11th and the 18th? I'm teasing. Let's not do that.
We could, and then we could just cancel one if we needed to.
Yeah. So I think that there's some really sound logic in meeting on the 11th, because that gives us more time if decisions do need to still be made, to talk about things. So that's my 2 cents. But I want to hear from other board members what their availability is and thought process, including, remember, we don't have to add a meeting. So let me know if you think we should add a meeting, and if you feel like you could do it on the 11th or the 18th. Michelle, go ahead.
I could do either day, and like anytime after 4. But I think it would be good. I think we need a buffer just in case if we have to meet again, and just to have it just in case.
Okay. So what's your preference? August 11th or 18th?
I feel like we're getting into crunch time. I'd probably say the 11th might be better.
Okay. 11th on August 11th after 4.
Right.
What's your feeling?
No feeling, doesn't matter to me. Remember, I'm retired.
So you want to meet every day? Is that what you're telling me?
As long as I get my $1.14, I'll be okay.
All right. Mike is a thumbs up for a meeting, and we can schedule it whenever we want. Yay for us. Catherine?
I am happy to meet on either day. I have a preference for the 11th.
A preference for the 11th. Okay. Nate?
Yeah, I'm just going through my calendar again, and both those days work. And if I would support the 11th as well.
Okay. Sam?
Either works for me.
All right. Christy?
11th.
11th. Okay. I would propose that we do a meeting on August 11th starting at 6:30. But before, we would just need a motion to move that to action.
I move that we send the calendar to the action agenda.
Second.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote on moving that to action.
Michelle Tuitapo, yes.
Mike Namalka, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Samuel Hansen, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Okay, we will move that to our action agenda. And before we move on to the next, I want to welcome our Ndati Uman. And Ndati, if you want to turn on your camera, we'd like to see you and meet you.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
This is an unusual way to start your introduction to board meetings, but we're really excited to have you join us and represent West High, but also all students in our district. And your voice will be really important to what we're talking about this year. And I introduced you a little bit earlier. So I think those, who are in this quote unquote room and watching on Facebook Live have heard a little bit about you, but you're an impressive young woman. And we're really excited to have you join us and be the advocate that you already have been. But we hope that you will feel really open to use your voice and express what you're thinking and represent the student voice, because that's here to help. We're here to make sure your experience is good. If there's anything we can do to help you, reach out. You've got my phone number. Superintendent Madden, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I'd love to say welcome. I'm sorry we can't meet in person. I guess this is what that is now, but so glad to have you on the board. And as a former teacher of West High, I appreciate where you come from as well. So welcome.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
So feel free to keep your camera on so that I can see if you're raising your hand, and make sure that you have opportunities to speak, because we'll definitely want you to express your opinion on the things that we're talking about. That's going to be important to us.
Okay.
So thank you. Thanks for joining us. All right. We will now move to our action agenda. And if it's okay with you all, I'd like to just have our calendar schedule, our board meeting schedule. Let's act on that right now, if that's okay, before we move into the next portion of our meeting. So can I take a motion on our board meeting schedule?
I move that we calendar a meeting for Tuesday, August 11th at 6:30 p.m.
I second it.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote, starting with you, Michelle.
Michelle Tuitko, yes.
Mike Devalka, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Samuel Henson, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. We will hold a board meeting on Tuesday, August 11th at 6:30 p.m. Now, we will move on to our action agenda item, the school reopening plan and assurances. And for this portion of the action agenda, I'm going to turn the time to our interim superintendent, Madden. And to all of our guests, welcome. Thank you all for being here in support of the superintendent. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. I think the first step is to go over where we are with the reopening plan at this point, and then we can come back to the assurances later, because that would be tied to, I think, what we decide to actually do in terms of reopening. So let me go through a few things. I think first off, I think it's safe to say that we do all want the same thing. We want everyone back in school full time. And I would also say that to a large extent, our goals haven't changed. I know that when I was an administrator in a school, and I know this from conversations with other administrators, the very first thing I thought about in the morning was the safety of students. And I know that we're there to educate, but that was the first thing that I thought about, and the safety of our staffs, and then providing that high quality education. This has been a most unusual situation that we're in. We've continued to gather information from parents, staff, community members. There are a lot of strong emotions. I am concerned that some of our constituents feel that maybe they haven't been heard. And I want everyone to know that we do hear you. And I understand that, whatever decision we make, we want you to be able to attend the school of your choice and receive the best possible education. We do want your kids fully back in Salt Lake City School District schools. And I hope that we're all in this together. There are lots of questions, and I would like to offer, first off, an apology. I have had so many emails and so much input that I have not had a chance to answer them all yet. I'm working my way through them, and I will answer them. But I apologize to any of you that have sent an email and haven't had an answer yet. We all want answers. Whatever choice we make in this, it affects others, and we may not know for a long time whether it was the best choice. It could take a while. I want to say first, in regards to our ability to deliver education, is any remote learning that we are involved in this year will not be a repeat of spring. In spring, we were in emergency mode. We handed out computers. We figured out how to get food to families and went home. Everyone was thrown into kind of uncharted territory. Parents had new responsibilities piled onto them. Teachers were expected to teach in ways for which most of them had not prepared. Everyone was stressed. And in an effort to ease that stress, we eased our expectations on both students and staff. And we told students that no one would fail. And I believe that that was the right thing to do at that time. This was so unusual that we were trying to relieve stress. But with that, we also removed some expectations. And while it may have been the right thing to do at the time, we will take a completely different approach to any remote learning that we engage in this fall. With all of our efforts last spring, we did lose track of some of our students, and we've learned a lot. We learned a ton from last spring, and we've been working hard. All summer, we've been working hard, and we are ready to do it, and we are ready to do it well. Since then, we've adopted a common platform for remote learning, which is Canvas, and our intention there is to provide a uniform place where you would expect all of your students to work through all of their classes in Canvas. So it does make it easier for parents to monitor, but it also provides us a great place to house our curriculum ongoing. I think this can be one of the really positives coming out of this whole thing. So all classes, K-12, will be on this platform, regardless whether we are all fully in school, out of school, or partially in. And we've added some excellent tools that can be used by teachers and students. We've been training teachers all summer on how to teach effectively when we are in a remote situation. We have more trainings coming up. We are working on exemplars for teachers because we had some wonderful examples and successes in the spring, aside from some of the struggles. I know there are a lot of groups of teachers right now that are working very hard to make sure they're ready. I've seen some very detailed examples of proposals by schools to think about how we can provide more consistency and better connect with students when we are in that remote mode. And we will be ready to begin. Last week, the governor generously offered us some latitude in regards to opening schools and extracurricular activities, and we appreciate that. And it's allowed us to begin to open up some athletic opportunities for our students. We'll have more opening up this week, and we'll have more coming out about that very, very soon, the next day or two. We, the Salt Lake District leadership, many of them are here today, offer this plan based on the current conditions. We understand that conditions can change, and ask the community to do all they can to help us move in a positive direction. I would hope everyone would participate in the Utah's 55 moonshot. Wear masks, social distance, isolate as needed. There's still time to make a big change. We have weeks till school starts, and I think it's still very possible. But the proposal based on the conditions that we see today are this. We would propose to begin remote learning for the first quarter. first quarter would take us to October 30th. While we had a good day reported yesterday, we continued to see an upward trend in cases. We do worry about the physical and mental health of families, especially those that are most vulnerable. Individuals or small groups of students that need extra services would still have the opportunity to meet in schools. We would put our full attention into the remote learning. And within all of this, we're going to make every effort we can to mitigate the spread of the virus. We'll monitor trends going forward from this point and hope to make a very informed decision on how we would approach second quarter. The second part of this is that we would propose to begin classes on the Tuesday after Labor Day. In the time in between when teachers would return to work, what we would do is we would have an expectation that all teachers would connect with students. Elementary teachers could do that with their individual students. They may do that remotely, or they may even invite those students into the school to visit with them one-on-one. We can do that. Secondary teachers may need to make those meetings be in small groups, but we would still expect that we would connect with all of our students before we began. It would also allow us some time to conduct some preliminary testing to evaluate learning gaps, take our RI reading assessment tests, and there are other assessments, Dr. Hall can speak to that later, that we could apply in this time to help figure out where we are and where we need to go. We would also have the opportunity to do some home visits within that time, make sure that all of our students have the technology we need. And in talking with Sam Quantz today, our Director over Information Technology, we're in pretty good shape right now. We could cover 60 to 70% of students today. We have 2,000 more laptops coming that are not included in that number. And so we are in fairly good shape in terms of technology, and we would take the time to make sure that everyone has it, everyone knows how to use it. We'll know where we stand by the end of the quarter. And at that point, we can decide that we can transition into the hybrid, or if things go extremely well, we could transition into full-time class. That's our plan. I'm going to open it up to questions now, and I do have Dr. Sandra Buendia here. She's the Executive Director of Educational Equity and Student Support. She can speak to questions related to equity, social emotional learning, socialization, special education. Dr. Tiffany Hall is the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, and she can speak to the online platforms, our work with English language learners and curriculum. Roberto Munoz is here. He's the Executive Director of School Leadership and Performance, and he's here with his team of Becky Pittum, Brian Conley, and Chris Jesslin. They've been working very closely with the planning groups at the schools. James Yapius is the Director of the Salt Lake Education Foundation and could speak to our efforts in providing support to families. Moselle Orton is here. She's the Executive Director of Human Resources. Yandri Scotland is the Executive Director of Communications and Community Relations. And with that, we would like to open it up to the board for questions.
Melissa?
Michael?
Yeah, I would rather let each board member express their thoughts before you go any farther.
Sure.
Because mine's going to take a few minutes, and I'll let the rest of them go first. Melissa, what do you think?
You're muted, Melissa.
I'm muted?
No, mute.
No,
Melissa.
no, Mike, that would be me. I'm sorry. I've been over here talking to you, but I was muted, and I'm sorry for that. Let's go ahead and hear from board members. Thank you, Superintendent Madden, for your proposal, and thank you to Sandra Buendia, Tiffany Hall, Roberto Munoz, Brian Conley, Becky Pittum, Chris Jesslin, James Yapius, and Moselle Orton for joining us for this conversation. And do I have a board member who wants to start, or should I go ahead, Sam?
Thanks for letting me start. I'll just say thank you to everyone who worked on this plan. And for those that didn't watch last week, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, a lot of work went into this plan. It was truly a shared governance process. And so I think that this suggestion from the superintendent of the cabinet is very sensible. It seems to me guided by science and compassion and care for human life and honesty about our strengths and optimism about getting into the classroom. So I think it's the right way to move forward. And I'd share with everyone, I think, the desire to get back into the classroom as soon as we can. But I think that we should, looking at the situation as it stands now, this is going to be the bedrock of what we do for the next year anyway. So we should get really good at it. And I think, October 30th is not that far away. That seems like a really reasonable moment to reassess. And then, I just think that if we stick to this plan, which represents a pretty monumental effort from our own community, it'll give everybody the security they need to kind of breathe going into the new year. I mean, it's going to look very different, but I think we're doing the right thing by admitting that to our parents and families. And I really think that sense of security will help everybody be creative and think out of the box. So I think it makes sense, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into it.
Thanks, Sam. Anybody else?
You want to hear from me now?
Absolutely.
You're frowning, Melissa.
Oh, I'm not frowning. I want to hear from you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
I really don't agree with what they came up with, and I'll give you some reasons why. Number one, we're going to send special ed kids into those schools. Are they going to be exempt from any kind of COVID if we send them into the schools? Are they any different than regular ed kids? Why can't we send them both into school?
Do you want an answer, Mike?
Oh, wait, I'm going on. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Just read my notes here. I got a couple.
Okay.
I've received over 400 emails. I've read most of them. I'm not going to be able to answer them all because I'm old. Mine are going about 50-50. Open schools, full-time, go remote learning. I've lost in my schools, the two on the closest to me, over 500 students to a charter school who is going to open face-to-face with after-school programs. Think about this. If we don't open our schools and parents have to quit their jobs to stay home and take with their children, then who's going to be work? Who's going to work to pay the taxes that we depend upon? And I don't care what anybody says. Science tells us that it's not about the children. They don't affect anyone. It's the opposite. Methods of teaching are a means to an end, but not the end itself. We need to teach the students how to think. A great teacher once said, I would not read a book to a child that could not think. When we teach online, we are escaping that most crucial concept. Teachers who do, this is my own opinion, do not teach face-to-face are promoting themselves when they think they are teachers. Online teaching is just a lazy way of attempting to teach children. And I can give you example after example after example of what happened over the spring. I don't care if you got the best program in the world to teach online. It ain't going to work. You don't have kids to teach. Besides that, elementary teachers prepare for more than one subject. Where in the middle schools, especially the high schools, only have one subject to prepare. So we're putting things upon our elementary teachers that other teachers don't have to put up with. We must remember that learning does not happen when there has been no teaching. An example of that would be math. Mathematical learning is a process of active construction, not merely passive absorption. Elementary teachers have the right further written agreement to determine what day their preparation day is going to be. We cannot give it to her. Why can't we have the teachers come into school if they're going to go online? Why do they need to stay home? My main concern is, of course, the children. And then my next concern is the teachers. What about vocational education? We might as well throw it out the book. College has been a proven fact now that college degrees are not the important thing you need to get a job. Some people don't even just barely have a high school diploma are making more money than people who've got a college degree. And answer this. What's going to happen to our sports program? Is it done? Are we all through with it? I don't understand what's going to happen with those kids that want to. We need to let the parents make their own decision. The same with the teachers. They need to make their own decision. Here's another thought. Say you have 4 classes of English in high school. Well, if you go online, you can get rid of 2 teachers, surplus them. 2 teachers can teach 4 classes of students online easily. You don't need that many teachers if you're going to put them online. We can just surplus them and make them subs or something down in special ed or elementary schools. If parent does not want their child to participate in sports, if we go face-to-face, then they can keep him or her home. We need to open our schools to face-to-face instruction. If parents want their children to do online teaching, we have that capability according to the superintendent. We can teach some of them online. You have a teacher who doesn't want to go back to school and teach, we have that same capability. They can stay home if they're 60 or over. And then we can use another teacher. They can combat teachers anyway. Online instruction will not prepare for education beyond high school. I just don't believe that. I've never seen it. And it's just like going to church. And besides that, a BYU recent study has indicated that masks do the job. We can prepare and protect our children if we send them to school online. I have no doubt about that. I could go on and on and on, with different things that I've thought up about this.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that there's lots of questions.
There you go.
Nate, Catherine, Nate, did I see I think I saw your microphone off. Go ahead, Nate.
Certainly. So I'll be honest, and I've also heard from a lot of parents and a lot of teachers as well, and a lot of people in the community from all portions and areas of our city. And I'll be honest, I'm leading with my heart on this decision. And I think where I'm at, and I believe that where I'm at is sounded in a reality that we need to acknowledge the dangers associated with this illness of COVID-19. There is no doubt in my mind that we know very little. And I hear people say that all the time. But what I do know is not pleasant. It's very scary to me to think that we would be putting our kids at risk in some capacity without making a more informed decision at some point in the future. And if that's October, makes sense to me. The other reality that I'm up against is that if we're making decisions based on how to get back to normal, I don't think that serves our students. I don't think that serves our parents. I don't think that serves our teachers and all of our employees well, relative to the health and safety of their livelihoods and their just the quality of life. Okay. Our sense of normal is not with us, right? Anything that we thought of as normal in education pre-COVID is in the rearview mirror at this point. And I really think that we have an opportunity to acknowledge that, to be honest with that, to trust the expertise of the educators in our schools, in our principal and AP positions, in our and all of the support staff and paras to do what they do best. Opportunity for us where we have to also acknowledge that we trust those individuals every single day in what we would consider a normal educational setting, pre-COVID, pre-quarantine, pre-online or remote learning, and we need to trust them to carry out their task and their duty to educate our kids in the current circumstances that we exist in. I fear a couple of things relative to children, and I do believe, based on evidence and studies that have been going on around this country and in the world, that kids do contract COVID-19, that they do spread it, and some studies saying that children as young as 10 spread coronavirus just as rapidly as any adult does. And that's what freaks me out. That's what really worries me. I've also had the chance to hear from a number of parents on this issue as well, and a lot of differing opinions, but I will say, especially based on a recent letter that I received and that we all received this morning, and again, most recently before our board meeting, that has over 1,000 signatures on it. And again, I know that's not every parent on the west side, but I would say that it's most from the Glendale, Poplar Grove, and Rose Park neighborhoods that has a little over 1,000 signatures on it at this point. I think that's a true testament to what not only the parents of our community are thinking, but certainly what our community at large is thinking, how they feel about the cautious nature that we should take relative to this illness. To me, education is paramount, but we also have a duty and a responsibility to the health and safety of our community at large, and of course to our children and their families. I would like to officially make this announcement that the signatures and the letter that I received from the Glendale parents be a part of the official record. So I'll make sure to get that over to Superintendent Madden so that can be attached to our minutes, because I do think it's a powerful statement from that community who have expressed very deeply that they're very concerned about sending their parents, or excuse me, that they're very concerned as parents to send their kids to school with the current crisis and pandemic that we're experiencing right now. And I think that the plan that the cabinet, interim superintendent Madden, everybody else who's participated in that from a shared governance standpoint is not only the right thing to do, but it's the safe thing to do to ensure the safety of our kids, their livelihoods, their lives, their quality of life moving forward. Relative to the equity piece, I think it's quite unique that a number of parents from the very communities that a lot of people say are going to be hit the hardest by this illness, the same ones who are saying that I want to protect my kids. And if that means that I lose my job, if that means I lose my housing, then that's what it's going to take to keep my kids safe. And I think we need to stand by those parents. I think we need to hear them. I think we need to listen to them and acknowledge that those are the very folks that in many ways keep us safe and keep our grocery stores stocked, keep our restaurants running, keep our hospitals running behind the scenes as well. And I truly believe that we should be cautious. We should have a more informed decision relative to in-class education, face-to-face learning, brick and mortar, whatever you want to call it. But that is the representative standpoint that I will take for my community as a Salt Lake City School Board representative and the vice president of this board.
Thanks, Nate. Anybody else? Michelle? Go ahead, Michelle.
So I'll try to keep mine brief, but you know, and I've spoken to a lot of people, parents, teachers, administrators within our area, and people are scared. But people are also divided on this. And I feel like we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with the decision. But what it comes down to is the parents' request to have a choice of understanding the safety involved, to still have a choice to either do all online or to have the hybrid model. That's what they're asking for. And my fear is that if not given a choice, that we will lose a lot of families to other districts that are doing a model that is giving them that choice. And a lot of parents have expressed they're not trying to sway us one way or the other. They just want to know that they have the opportunity to choose for themselves as parents, to either have the hybrid model or to do all online. I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Thank you, Michelle. Christy, go ahead.
So I do appreciate all of the work that's been, gone on. However, I think since our last meeting 2 weeks ago, whatever has been going on behind the scenes and the work that's been happening from what you've been saying, Superintendent, that hasn't been something I've been privy to. I don't know what plans have been put in place. There's the parents I've been hearing from are really nervous about any kind of an online learning based on the experience, that they had in the spring. So for you to say that there's been training and that, everyone's on the same platform with Canvas, I'm still hearing from teachers that they don't know what their day is going to look like. And also parents, there's no information that's gone to parents to help quell down those fears that they're having about what an online experience would look like. So like Michelle, I've been hearing, from parents, and my parents are split, and also, from teachers, in the same way that, they're also split in the sense that they want to be with their students, they want to have that experience with their students, but also, there is the virus that we're all living with. But with my parents, like Michelle said, they want to be able to have options. And, I think looking at, just strictly an online, for the entire district is something that I wasn't prepared to hear tonight because of the conversation that we had 2 weeks ago. I thought we were leaning more towards the hybrid, and especially since leadership and you yourself, met with the mayor and, we're talking to the governor about looking at, some flexibility for us. So it's taken me a little bit by surprise, that we are looking at a complete online, in the fall. And so where I'm at tonight is that there would have to be a lot of assurances. There would have to be, a clear and concise plan that our parents, will be able to buy into, and our students, because I've heard from a lot of students also in regards to what the learning was like online. So if we're moving towards that, then I want to be able to see that plan. And in fact, I probably would have liked to have heard from Tiffany, from Dr. Hall, and from the cadre of people that you've brought tonight, so that our parents who are online tonight would be able to also hear what are those plans, what are those steps, what is that process. And also, I think that even though Sam mentioned that there was a shared governance committee, I don't think that that is as public as we should make it, to be able to say, these are the metrics, this is the science we looked at, this is the process that we looked at in order to come to this decision, because that certainly isn't on our front page. And I don't believe that that's been sent out to parents either. So although, it's going to, you've made it really difficult tonight for, for us as board members, with me being just a little bit caught off guard, of where do we go now in regards to how do we now, as you said yourself, how do we now bring everybody together to work together to make this plan work for everybody? Because I know that the parents that I've been hearing from, not having that option, of online or in person is important to them. And I don't think that that should be discounted, at all, because it's not like that they don't think that the virus is there, but they're also thinking about the social emotional health of their children, and also, the safety measures. So again, I want to hear more from the people who are with you, so that the people who are online tonight, and that I can become very educated in giving them information about moving towards this online model, And then what are those metrics that we're going to be looking at in October to make a decision of what the next steps are, because that's not out there either. So tonight, I appreciate, again, the work and the conversation that we're having right now, but I'm feeling very uneasy saying, sure, let's all go online and let's just hope for the best, because I don't think our parents should expect that, nor should our students expect that either. So I would like us to be able to, put together that plan, show everybody what it is, walk them through that, and then also talk about some flexibilities. And maybe there's some flexibilities from school to school, as you said. What does that really look like when an elementary school is going to try and get together with their students and have a meet and greet? Or what does that, assessment piece look like, for parents? And as Catherine brought up a couple of weeks ago, I am highly concerned about making sure that we have the same device in every home and the availability for every home to have. And so that means that shouldn't be on the backs of anybody else but this district. That money's going to have to come out of our capital plan in order for us to pay for those devices, to make sure that every child has that opportunity to have that device, and also the hotspots, so that there is the connectability with their teachers. Another thing that's come up in my thinking is, so remote learning, does that mean our teachers are going to be in their classrooms doing their lessons? Or does that mean that they're also going to be at home doing their lessons? I think that that's another question that came up in my conversations and letters with parents, is the availability of, and I think, Superintendent, you did say, we gave a lot of concessions this last spring. So I'm just asking these questions so that we'll have a cadre of questions that we can have answered, that we'd be able to say, here are the most frequently, but then also here are the other things that we need. So even though if this board decides that we're going to move into an online, I still believe that we need to reconvene not only the calendar committee, so the calendar committee can look at what our year looks like, if we go to September, meeting after September. And then the second piece is, I think that stakeholder groups need to be formed, whether it's in, pockets of our city or in schools, or maybe it's in our middle school. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. But I think that parents need to have a voice and know what those expectations are with their teachers and their administrators, that if we go online, what is that going to look like from now until October? So I know that I'm trying to look at my notes. I'm sorry. I think that there's some things that I've missed that I really wanted to say, because I feel as though that as a representative, and I appreciate the words that Nate said, because I also have to represent the voices and the parents and the teachers that I've been hearing from, the hundreds of emails that I've been getting. And I just want my parents and my teachers to know, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the time and effort that you have taken to email me and talk about your concerns and the issues around this virus. It means a tremendous amount to me. And I'm sorry that I haven't been able to get to every one of you, but I promise you, I will make an effort, to email you back, make myself available for conversations. It's important that you know that I appreciated the effort and time that it took for all of you to email me and to text me and to call me. That was, although at times it was a little overwhelming, it was very humbling for me. So thank you so much to all of you that care so much about Salt Lake City School District and care about the safety and health of your children and also of your teachers. So I hope that we can just continue this conversation. I know that there'll probably be other things that I want to bring up, as we go along, but, I do want other board members to be able to chime in and so that we can try and move in a direction, that's going to be the most helpful for our students and for our parents and also for our employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Catherine, I'm sensitive to the fact that you need to leave by 6. So would you like to go ahead?
Sure. I think we were planning on ending the meeting by 6. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
So I guess I wanted to start by saying that I think that there, in my perspective, that there was some miscommunication between at least some of the sports parents that I'm familiar with and the district or the HSAA. My understanding is that sports parents are able to play sports in our district. And I think it's really important that everyone knows that sports parents, that children do not have to play sports if they feel uncomfortable playing sports. But thanks to Governor Herbert, that even though Salt Lake City is at an orange level, our students are able to play sports, and we're still able to make decisions in the classroom, the kinds of decisions we want to make. So I want to thank the governor for giving our district that flexibility. I know there are a lot of parents that feel very passionate and a lot of students that feel equally passionate about the ability to play sports. And I think that this gives us the flexibility to have that happen. And I know that we have a very strong and consistent reporting. So if there are any cases, then those can be reported immediately to the district, and we can do the appropriate quarantining. But I do know that that's really important to us parents, and I know that that may be something that our teams don't know. And I think that that was important. I think, for example, I got a lot of emails from the West High football team, and I want them to know that. I don't know if that makes a big difference to the West High football team, but just you should know that sports are able to be played by students in our district. They don't have to be played. If students don't feel comfortable playing them, they can be played. And like I said, I appreciate the governor allowing us to make that decision while also making our own decisions about what's safe in our classroom. I do think that our committees did a really good job thinking about what we needed in our district and to make our children safe. And I really appreciated the administration and what they thought about, and our superintendent. And I really appreciated what he thought about, and what our district leaders thought about, and our network leaders thought about. And I really appreciate that careful consideration. And I wonder if we're ready to make the decision tonight. I wonder if we need to think about possibly what the numbers might be looking like in a couple weeks. I know we need to adopt our insurances right now. And I wonder if we can adopt our plans that were so carefully thought about by our committees, that they shared governance committees by parents and teachers and administrators that spent hours and hours. And I wondered if we can adopt those plans. Those plans can be altered. I wonder if we can adopt those plans, and if we can decide to delay school until after Labor Day. And we can think about that time for planning. We're going to need to put into place lots of different things, no matter whether we start in a hybrid model or if we start in a remote model. And if we can look at our numbers on August 15th for registration, and we can make a choice later on. So I would suggest to our board that we adopt the plans that our careful committees have made for us, that are shared governance committees, and we are a shared governance district, and that we do that. That is my suggestion to this school board right now. I want to thank those committees. I know that there were hundreds and hundreds of hours and real thoughtfulness and creativity and innovation that was put into that. And I want them to thank those people that did all that work. I want to say that I've heard from probably the same parents, and I appreciate them so much for the feedback that I've given. There's been certainly some organized campaigns, like I said this morning, a very organized campaign from the West football team. Thank you for those emails. I have not had a chance to get back to you yet. Many of you are not my constituents. You are West High people, and I consider you mine, even though many of you do not live in my district, so I will get back to you. My own constituents are running about 7 or 8 to 1 by my count to go to a remote model. Thank you for those emails. I feel like they're data-based, and I agree with you. Teachers and administrators, you're running about 20 to 1 by my count to go to a remote model, with the notable exception of being Principal Wright. The West's new principal, Principal Wright, seems to be an advocate for going back to school. Maybe I haven't had, like I said, I haven't had the chance to speak to Principal Wright, but he seems to be wanting to go back to school. So I look forward to the chance to speaking to Principal Wright. It seems like he might want to go back full time. So I just learned about this last night. Tried to get in touch with him this morning. I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but that's interesting to me. And like I said, he may be that one person out of at least 20 to 1. So I'll be interested in talking to him. Almost all the other administrators and teachers that have contacted me, with just a few other exceptions, would like to be remote. So like I said, the Southwest Quadrant, or excuse me, the Southeast Quadrant, a lot of parents have also contacted me, not my constituents, but many of them also would like to return to school. So I am conscious of that. But like I said, I'm trying to reflect my own interests, my own evaluation of data. And I think that this is a dangerous and frightening disease. And I don't believe we know enough about this disease. And I believe that we should be very conscious of that. And we need to know what the numbers are right now. If we do that moonshot that Nate spoke of, that 55 days to safety, and if we think about masks, and we really focus on doing something that I'd really like to see us try to improve our numbers in Salt Lake City. Let's see what our numbers are on August 15th. Let's vote to start school the day after Labor Day, and let's make a decision then about what we're going to do. And let's vote to accept our assurances and our plan tonight. Thank you, Melissa, and I appreciate the chance to address the board.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you to board members for all your thoughtful comments and considerations. I hear more questions than answers. That's what I hear. I also want to tell you that this has been, I think, for all of you, and for me included, a difficult process to go through. It's been an enjoyable process because I actually really enjoy talking to people. But really, for the first time that I've been as a board member, I have not been able to keep up. So this has been something that I've received more feedback on than anything. And this is what I'll tell you. My experience has been, for parents, when I'm hearing from parents, so much fear, so much concern, for so many different reasons. And the virus is a part of that, a huge part of that, but it isn't the only part of it. And I'm convinced, after talking to a lot of people, that there's really as many people as have thought of this. There's that many different ways to think about this. It's not easy. We've never been in a situation like this. It's hard. But I do feel like it's important that I represent students and parents that I'm hearing from that want and feel like we need to have an option for their children to be in the classroom. It's representative, about 50-50 from my precinct. I'm also aware and really conscious of the fact that people everywhere have different opinions on this. And I don't think we have enough planning to know if people will feel safe. I feel like we're behind the game with this, really through the situation. I mean, I'm not throwing blame on anybody. I do just feel like we're behind, and I think we need a little more time. I recognize that we do have to pass assurances, and as I read through those assurances, they're largely about what to do if we return in person. So we can pass that. I support some of those things that we're doing. What I don't think is that we've spent enough time engaging with our community. about, or our teachers, stakeholders, or really even with the board about how we're going to do this and how we're going to do it well. I appreciate the conversation about safety, health and safety. I want the conversation to be about education and how we're doing to make sure that because we're not serving them well if we aren't doing both. And that's why I appreciated Superintendent Madden's comments at the beginning. We do need to be careful about safety. We have to provide a plan for safety. But that's not where we stop. We have to provide a high quality education. I'm a believer in public education, and I know that it's important. I know that it's the only opportunity for many of our students to have that leg up that they need. I'm hearing from a lot of my parents who, in my community, who feel like they didn't have a good online experience. We need to do a better job of explaining how we're going to do better this fall. And really, it was Superintendent Madden who convinced me that it might be harder to start online this fall when we don't know the students than it was in the spring when teachers did. But I know that our teachers don't feel safe, and I don't blame them. They're not wrong. We need to make sure we have a plan. I feel like we need to know what metrics we would be looking at in order to open. And then last of all, I will say, I think parents need to be able to have options. I think that that's an important part of what our district has always been about. And we need to be listening to what parents need and what parents want. And the difficult thing I'm hearing, and I'm hearing it from many of you, is that it's really pretty split. I've read the petition that Nate references. It's eloquent, and I understand every single one of those concerns. And I appreciate the parents have signed it. And that speaks loud volumes. I've also I've been a recipient of another petition that wants where parents have signed it and want their kids to at least have the option of in-person learning. And I guess I'm with Catherine. I hope that we can start with the premise that in-person learning is what's going to be best for our students, that face-to-face interactions between our teachers and our students is what matters. That's what we're trying to get to. That's where we need to be working toward, and we need to have a plan to get there. But we have to do it safely, which means we need to be looking at numbers. We need to be looking at metrics. We need to have a plan, a step-by-step plan to get there. I haven't seen the step-by-step plan that really helps us get to what measures and metrics we'll be looking at to get our kids in school and give our parents that option. I want to see that. I want to have some, perhaps at one point we talked, Superintendent, about having a panel of experts, scientists, and on the virus, but also experts on our children, on our district. We have a large group of them here. And so I think I appreciate what you were trying to do in bringing these voices here. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from your cabinet on what they're thinking or what their plans are. I want to hear from parents on really what their expectations are and those accountability measures that you talked about, Superintendent. I guess what you're hearing me say is that I'm not advocating that we start and we go full speed. I'm not even suggesting that we start August 24th in our hybrid, but I would like to try. I feel like it's really important that we say to ourselves that this is a terrible situation that we didn't create, but we can do our best to make it better for our children. And I don't feel like providing less options to our families is helpful. And so I I guess I would say let's take a minute. Let's take a week. I would like to see a plan presented. I would like to see it fleshed out a little bit more. I would like to know what those metrics that you would be looking at would be. I would like to know at what point is our tolerance level for safety. I want that to be something that we are very clear about what our metrics are for that. I would like to know how we're going to do really how we're going to do a better job. And I see your hand, Sam, and Christy, and maybe I'm rambling, but I did listen to all of you. So please give me that same courtesy. I'm representing it. This is a difficult position because I know that people are going to be unhappy on either side, and safety is paramount. I hope you hear me say that. But I don't want to let our children down. I don't want to not give them the quality education they deserve, and I don't want to give up on them, which is why I'm not willing to say, I want to hope. I want to hope and work and challenge us to be ready to start with our hybrid whenever that is, sooner than October 30th. And whenever that is, I mean by following a certain set of metrics, and I want to know what those metrics are. I want our community to reach out. I want scientists to tell us what they are, and I want to be able to give our parents options. So thank you. I saw hands from Christine and Sam.
I think Arundhati actually raised her hand first, so
okay. Go ahead.
Maybe we should let her speak.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just have to say, I think I really appreciate all the work that went into this proposal. And right now, I'm speaking for a lot of students, especially at West High. But my biggest concern are the students that we're leaving behind. We saw in Los Angeles that less than 50% of students logged into online schooling after the pandemic had started. And I don't think that's viable here because we see that the pandemic, it's eventually going to end, but the repercussions we have because of our education will continue long after that. So I think maybe we could just keep that in mind, and I really appreciate the idea of giving us more time to see how things go. But I don't want any of my peers to be left behind. And that would be my greatest hope, is that we're all in this together. And then my second concern is that if we reevaluate online schooling after October, we're heading into the flu season right there, so we might be getting hit with an even larger issue, which compounded with the pandemic can make it much, much worse, which means we might be shut down for even longer than October if we go with the online schooling plan now. And I feel that a hybrid model would at least give the community and students a chance to be greater invested in their education than had it been all online schooling. Anyway, those are my 2 cents, so thanks.
Thanks, Arundhati. I appreciate your 2 cents. Christy and then Sam.
So could I possibly get a couple of questions answered? So I know that we need to do the assurances, correct? And those need to be sent into USBE. But my understanding is that we actually have to post our plan online, for our parents to see. It can be changed, correct? Is that right?
I believe it can be changed. It has to be posted by August.
So by August 1st. So, I think that for me, that obviously there's some deadlines that we need to hit first. And as Melissa said, if there's any way that we can answer some of those questions that we have before that August 1st deadline, I think that would be super important, you know, so that we can get the assurances done and sent to USBE, and then get our our plan online so that parents will be able to look at it. And then from that point, be able to dig a little bit deeper and answer more questions, or look at, you know, what information do we need to get out to parents in order for them to feel comfortable with, and it's even the parents who are pro online, you know, that want us to go, you know, completely 100% remote. I am assuming they also want to know what are those assurances that are going to be in place, you know, so I think that's a common goal that all of us have. I want to just echo what Melissa said. I think it's important that our parents know what metrics we're using and what steps we're using, because I do want parents to see that that is our goal, you know, if possible, to have kids in person in school, that we're not just going to be complacent, you know, and say, well, we're just going to do online for the rest of the year, you know, and just go forward with that, because I don't think that that's what the overarching, you know, goal should be, unless, you know, of course, the virus goes crazy, you know, for us. The other thing is I'm sorry, but I think that there are lots of differing opinions about athletics. And I'm not sure that what Catherine said is understanding of everybody. So I would really like to have either a statement from us, or maybe Larry, you can clear this up, because my understanding is that if we're not in person, that our kids can't play a regular season.
That is not my understanding. With the latitude that we were given from the governor's office, and now with the UHSA guidelines, as long as we're within those guidelines, we can play. So we've contacted them, and we're good to go.
Well, then I think that, again, that's just another piece that needs to be put out there to partners. I mean, Facebook, I'm just looking at it at the corner of my eye, and it's blowing up, you know, with lots and lots of questions. And I think that, you know, around the athletic piece, there's been some misunderstanding. I even had a conversation with one of our principals just yesterday, and the understanding was, no, they're not playing sports unless we are in an in-person situation.
This has just barely happened. We're meeting with all the administrators tomorrow, and I'm in fact meeting with the secondary administrators and the athletic directors first thing in the morning tomorrow.
So as soon as you can get information out, that's what
absolutely
to do. So the only last thing I wanted to say was, after looking at the assurances and reading through them, and knowing that there are many parts of the assurances that go to USB, it has the exact questions that we're asking that I mean, if you know the answers to all of these, they're not as clear, you know, to me. And so putting the assurances forward and voting on them tonight, you know, send them on to USBE, I think it's going to be our due diligence now to take each of those required areas and make sure that is vetted out to all of our parents, that they understand what those assurances we have committed to in the required areas, and then also the areas that are recommended. You know, that also needs to be something that needs to become really clear out in our community about how that's being achieved and what recommendations we're choosing to do, or maybe, you know, not do. So
yeah,
does that make sense?
Makes sense, and I appreciate that. We had a wealth of information, but by the time they came out with the requirements for the assurances and recommendations, we've done this bulk of work that they didn't exactly finger together. And so what we've been trying, and I think you're absolutely right, we need to make that more clear. And then it's our intention absolutely to make that public. Everyone needs to know every part of that.
So I don't want this to sound like a criticism, but yet it's been such a criticism that's come to me through all of my emails, is that the district has to do a better job of communication. You know, I think that has to be, you know, our banner right now: communication, 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 you know, in whatever way possible that we can, whether it's through our social media platform, or it's even like a meeting tonight, you know, to be able to send out a message to all of our parents and say, you know, join us on Facebook. This is how you do it. because there's a lot of parents that aren't on Facebook. And so they didn't know how to join the meeting and look at it in order to participate or even just to listen, about what the discussion is. That's just one small aspect. But I would just implore us as board members, that's our expectation, is that we have a standard that is from this point forward, whether it's on a bi-daily or weekly, that there is something going out to our parents continually so that they understand, what steps we're taking towards opening school, after Labor Day weekend, if that's, the will of the board to do that after Labor Day weekend.
Thanks, Christy. We don't have much more time because I know Catherine needs to leave in 3 minutes, and I'm sensitive to that. This is a conversation that could last a lot longer than this. And I do want to make sure that we don't cut the conversation short. And I hope you know that I'm advocating that we continue the conversation because I just don't think we've covered it entirely in this meeting. But I'm sensitive to that. And so Sam, I saw your hand, and then we'll go from there.
I was just going to go ahead and make a motion that we give the superintendent direction to send in the assurances based on the work that's been done already, and begin the process of moving the beginning of school date to Labor Day, since it seems like those are the two things we need to take action on tonight. And then, as you say, the discussion will continue. And I have more I could say, but I kind of think maybe we should just go ahead and vote on those things and the calendaring of our meeting now, since it's almost 6 o'clock, if that's okay with you.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve our assurances and start our school year for students after Labor Day. And why we're saying after Labor Day, can I clarify, Sam? Are you talking about the Tuesday after Labor Day? Yes, Larry. Okay. So we have a motion for that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so let's have discussion to that.
I just would say that we would make a decision about what how we would go back and what format we'd go back sometime around our board meeting on the 11th. And then we could decide, what that looks like. We could hear more input, and we could also see what our COVID numbers are looking like in Salt Lake City at that time.
Melissa.
Thanks, Catherine. Do I have other?
Melissa, it's Christy.
Okay, sorry, I can't see.
No, that's okay. I know it's hard to see all of us. I would just like to say if we could please reconstitute the calendar committee. If this motion passes tonight with the September starting date, then we need to pull the calendar committee back together. And I would suggest that there are several board members that could sit in on that, but I think we also need to add more parents, to that calendar committee. So I would hope, I don't think we need to amend, but could that just please be the direction that we give, that calendar committee be reconstituted?
Okay. I second that amendment. I am going to get lost in parliamentary procedure, so all please help me with that. I think we do need to do that. I want to add, Sam, if you're open to it, that we ask for more. How do I put this? Maybe a Facebook live stream online forum for our parents to ask questions of educators, for us to maybe create a forum where they can send their questions and concerns, and create a place for them to really talk to us and tell us what they're thinking. And then in that next step, I really want to know exactly what metrics we're looking at. It's going to be really important to me to know what the measurement is that we find that threshold of safety.
Okay. And Melissa, I call the question. Okay, I call the question.
Well, I think I have to, so I have to accept the amendment, right? And Melissa, you want to finish what you were saying quickly?
I think we've got to call the question.
She can't because she just called the question.
Okay. Can I still accept the amendment? Is that appropriate? Is that the right thing to do?
That's up to you.
Well, I accept the amendment that the direction should include reconvening the calendar committee after rescheduling the date of the beginning of school. So let's go ahead. Do we go ahead and vote? Is that right?
Wait a minute. What are you actually voting for? Just to change a date or whatever
No,
else?
what we're doing is we're voting on the calling of the question. You have to vote on that first, and then you go back to the motion.
What's the question?
Voting whether or not we are going to vote on the amendment. Or the motion of us. Remember that when we called this meeting, it had a hard stop at 6 p.m.
But also, Catherine, we've never stopped at a hard stop when we put a hard stop on our meeting.
When we had this meeting, I said we could do it, but I had a hard stop for my daughter at 6 p.m. Right? And you assured me that that was true. So my daughter's in the other room waiting for me for the meeting that you assured me I could go to for her. Right?
So let's have vote on
That's
calling
why
the
I
question.
asked you to call the question right now.
So
you told me that would happen.
I told you that I would call the question.
No, you told me that you assured me that we would finish this meeting by 6 p.m.
And I also have assured everyone else that we're going to make sure we're having a conversation and we're listening and we're making careful and thoughtful decisions.
I just called the question. So let's vote.
Okay. Michelle.
Michelle Tutpo, yes.
Mike Demelka, no.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Samuel Hansen, yes.
So that's me. I guess I'll say yes, and Catherine can go. We can vote on this motion, but I want to keep talking about this after. Christy?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion is that we approve the assurances as you've received them, and that we move the start to our school day.
So I'm sorry, Melissa, I'm sorry. So in a parliamentary, when you have a call the question, you're just voting on calling the question.
Okay.
And so now you can go back to the original motion once you have everyone vote. So everyone said yes, call the question. Now just go back to the original motion.
So I'm trying to recite the original motion, and maybe that's what I'm trying to do. But go ahead, repeat that, Sam.
So the motion is to move the beginning of school to the day after Labor Day, September 8th, Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, and to then reconvene the calendar committee to discuss the changes that we need to be made ensuing to that decision, as well as to accept the assurances for USBE.
Okay, that's the motion. I have a second from Catherine, I think. So let's go ahead and vote.
Will we have a discussion?
We've had
the discussion. We've had the call the question. So we have to go ahead and vote.
I'm sorry, I don't even know what we're voting on. You guys got me all confused. Remember, I'm old.
Well, that's fair, Mike, because this has kind of been convoluted, and I'm sorry about that. Catherine needs to leave, but we have assurances that we have to submit to the state board and that we have to post that talk about how we will open school.
So what do we
So we're voting to approve those. We're also voting to approve moving the school day, and reconstitute the calendar committee. Seems a little out of order to me, but I shouldn't comment. So the motion is to approve the assurances, move the school day to September 8th, and reconstitute the calendar committee.
Correct.
Let's take a vote.
Michelle Tutpo, yes.
Okay, Melissa, I'm with you. Yes. Whatever you suggest.
Sam made the motion. Catherine seconded it. Michelle's voted yes. You voted yes. Catherine's yes.
Cells are yes.
Sam Hansen, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to say, this is hard. I
Say
say,
no.
I say that I think we ought to reconstitute the calendar committee and then decide if we want to have school after Labor Day. So I'm going to say no. Go ahead, Christy.
I'm a no.
Changing my vote to no.
You don't need to do that, Mike.
I'm going.
All right. That passes. So we are approving the school day until after Labor Day and reconstituting the calendar committee. I'm hoping we can do the calendar committee first and really get on that. And Catherine, if you'd like to go, I think you should. I honor that and your prior commitment and do that. I think we've taken care of the action and the business of the meeting today.
We still need to vote on the calendaring of the meeting on the 11th.
We already did it.
We already did
Took care of that
that.
at the beginning.
We did
We
that
did?
already. Yes, we did.
Okay, I thought we just moved it to action. I'm sorry.
We moved it to action and then we took action. And I'm getting pressure to adjourn the meeting, but I really hope, I'd like, before I adjourn, I'd like, while we're in this action, to make a motion that we have a specific plan for soliciting and receiving engagement and feedback from representative stakeholder groups about how to move forward and what metrics we'll be using in order to determine when it's safe, so that we have a plan for when we can reopen schools that really addresses how to do it safely and that focuses on our board vision of excellence and equity for all students, every student, and that holds a high standard for their education. So that's my motion. Then I'll adjourn.
Sure.
Melissa?
Yep.
So I think that this discussion is important, and we know that time runs over. Catherine, can obviously, leave. That's what she needs to do. And if the rest of us still feel like there are some things that we'd like to talk about, then I think that we should be able to do that, to stay. This has been a little bit of a flurry and unorganized because we had, a board member say, we had a hard stop. And I feel like, that there may still be some questions that all of us have. So I would be happy to stay so that we can clear up some of the confusion and then go forward from there.
Okay, how about this? How about if we promise we won't take any action? Catherine, can we talk about this for a little longer? I guess I want to know what other board members think. I'm in a hard.
Promised that we did not understand that this would be a contentious meeting 2 weeks ago. We discussed this 2 weeks ago, and we said that this was going to be a very quick meeting. This is a very important discussion, and I would like to be a part of it. We did not understand
I want to honor that.
And this is, and I've seen the chat. This is I've seen myself get roasted in the chat.
Okay, let's not.
This is an important part. This is very important to me. But we decided, and I agreed to this meeting because we said it would be over. I've already missed 10 minutes of something that was very important to my daughter. I agreed to this meeting because it was supposed to be over at 6 p.m. And this board promised that it would. This was not supposed to be important. This is also important to me. That representing my constituent is important to me. It is very important to me to represent the constituents. I would like to continue this discussion at another time. This is a very important discussion, and I would like to continue it. I would like this board to honor its commitments to me, to my constituents, to all of our constituents, and stop right now. That's what I'm asking.
And what I'm saying was just making a motion that we create a space to continue the conversation and hear from your constituents and mine. That's my motion. That's my motion. If I have a second, that we create a plan to have parent and stakeholder, teacher, feedback
That's right.
on what we're talking about.
And let's do that on the 4th, where we already have a meeting, but I'd like to end this meeting now. So I move that we adjourn.
All right.
I just think, can I say something really?
Meeting adjourned. Yeah, go ahead, Christy.
No, I appreciate that, what you're saying, Melissa, and if you would restate that motion, but also I think that, I want to know how the rest of the board is feeling. If the rest of the board would like to stay and have a conversation a little bit further, then that's what we should do. And,
I'm sorry. We have Melissa's motion on the table, so let's.
Right, so Melissa, restate it, please.
That we have ask the superintendent to put together a plan to gather stakeholder engagement and feedback from representative groups and provide the metrics that we would be using to determine when we would return to school safely.
I'll second that.
I second it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and vote on it.
Okay.
Michelle Tuchpo, yes.
Mike Milk, yes.
Yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Samuel Hansen, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
I move that we adjourn now.
Goodbye. Thank you. Thanks all. Larry, is the Facebook Live turned off?
It's not.
Thank you all for joining us on Facebook. Appreciate the feedback. I haven't seen it yet, but I will read it, I promise. Thank you.
You did a good job. Don't worry about it.